Manchester United 2, Nottingham Forest 2. A match that can only be described as a war of attrition between both teams. So what happened behind the scenes from a tactical perspective? Without further ado, let's analyze. Alright, so let's get started, and first let's talk about what worked for Ruben Amorim from a tactical perspective. So obviously over the past few games where we had good results, Ruben Amorim has shown a preference for a pressing style that forced the opposition to go wide in order for our centre-backs to win the ball, therefore allowing us to sucker punch the opposition. And this worked relatively well in this game against Nottingham Forest. Here, of course, we see that role that I've highlighted in my latest video, Sesko's role. As you can see here, this bend-in run that aims to ensure that this defender right here cannot get the ball. This one right here is taken by Mbeumo, which means that Matt Sells really only has one option, and it is to go wide, and that's exactly what Manchester United want to do, because again, Luke Shaw. I talked about synergy in my previous video between Luke Shaw and Benjamin Sesko, and that's again exactly what we've seen in this game. De Ligt has won all of his duels again this game. He was absolutely amazing, formidable for us in the defense. And then, of course, these kind of like link-up plays, cute link-up plays between Matheus Cunha and Bruno Fernandes. It's clear that both of them really enjoy to play with each other. And then from that same sequence, we were able to get this corner from which we scored. One thing that I want to say about this corner routine, because it was the same thing in the corner from which Amad Diallo has scored, which is the fact that the Manchester United players, they kind of like overload the far post. I don't know why. So I think I'll have to wait for a few games and observe this routine to kind of understand why Ruben Amorim and his set-piece coaches have decided on implementing this particular strategy. But all I can say about it is that it works, because most of our goals came from this set-piece routine. So again, can you say the word pattern? Pattern of play right there. So beautiful cross towards Casemiro, and then what a revival he's having here at Manchester United. But then, okay, so that's what worked well for Manchester United and for Ruben Amorim. But the key question here is, what happens when the opposition are just as good as you are at that particular tactical strength that you are planning on using against them? Because Nottingham Forest were absolutely amazing also when it came to implementing that same Ruben Amorim strategy. I think that Sean Dyche really enjoys playing that way. And here, for example, in this sequence, same thing. The ball comes in from Laman's goal kick towards Cunha. Milinkovic is absolutely dominant in the air. And then this triangle right here, you know, the likes of Yates, Elliot Anderson, and then in this case, well, usually it's like Morgan Gibbs-White. But then here they're able to create situations where they can just drive and penetrate our midfield, bypassing that double pivot of Bruno and Casemiro. And of course, these kind of situations meant that they were able to maximize how often Elliot Anderson could get on the ball. This is a baller. This is an absolute baller. I'm a huge fan of this player. Definitely a player we need to keep an eye on. I think for me, it's like a catch-22 kind of situation, because I really want Nottingham Forest to get relegated. Guys, if you are a Nottingham Forest fan, come on, I don't hate you, but I'm just thinking about my club, my team. It's going to be easier to get him off of Marinakis, who is extremely tough, president to negotiate with. But then at the same time, I don't think Nottingham Forest are going to get relegated with a player this good in their team, because he's absolutely amazing. And so he's got a great passing range. And so they were able to maximize the amount of touches that he had. And of course, he was able to just spray the play and just orchestrate the play for them. But then every time he was able to put the ball into the wide areas, because that was their gameplay. That was how they scored those 2 goals, is putting the ball into the wide areas and then putting in crosses by having more men in the box than us. But what I just said now is kind of wrong, because it's not a matter of having more men. It's just that we were quite inefficient in how we used our defenders. For example, here, Milinkovic, who is obviously a threat in the air, is occupying both De Ligt and Leny Yoro. And then here, Amad Diallo, who has many qualities, but being good in the air is not one of his qualities. So, of course, there was only going to be one winner right here. Amad is actually quite good defensively, you know, when it comes to, duels on the ground. But when it comes to aerial duels, they're just asking too much of Amad, who's got a small frame, who's not really known for his high jumping reach. So they were able to score that goal. And obviously the game, I think as you were watching it, you probably felt the same way as I felt, which is, am I watching a Premier League game or, Shaolin soccer? Because that's exactly how it was. Look at this. I mean, look, it's just players fighting for the ball. But this type of game, you know, this rhythm suited Nottingham Forest much more than it suited us. For example, in the lead up to their second goal, same thing again, Elliot Anderson and Bruno Fernandes, Shaolin soccer style, and then they are able to play the ball towards Morgan Gibbs-White, who is a very good ball carrier. They are able to penetrate and create that vertical progression. And then they were able to find themselves in this situation. But now pay attention, because this play was absolutely amazing from Nottingham Forest's perspective. It really angered me, but, fair play. Here, Elliot Henderson, again, showing his tactical maturity. He's signaling to Morgan Gibbs-White to push further forward into the box. And so, as the ball is going to come towards the box, now look, Morgan Gibbs-White, as he's moving here, closer to the number 19, I think that's Igor, the Botafogo striker. Here, what's happening is that the right back is actually free, because everyone thinks that these guys are the most dangerous ones. And as you can see here, we have 4 center backs marking these players, but that's not where the danger is. The true danger is in this guy right here who is free. And so with this, they were able to position themselves in a way that if there is a loose ball in the box, this right back, was a Savona, his name is going to be the one who is able to pounce first and score the goal. And that's how they were able to score, by just ensuring that they had enough people, enough strikers in the right positions in the box, and then forcing this kind of like rugby play where it just gets messy, and they are able to exploit it better than us, right? So Manchester United tried a different way, because fair play to Ruben Amorim, Manchester United in this game tried to use a variety of strategies. One of them was to try to actually build up on the floor. But again, we were not able to do it effectively. Here, pay attention to the timestamp here, 27th minute, because 30 seconds after this, I'm going to show you a sequence where it works. So here, as you can see, the Nottingham Forest players, they're marking these players out. They cannot really receive the ball. They're quite compact. They're not really pressing with a lot of intensity, but they're just waiting for the right moment. And here is the right moment. As Cunha gets the ball, he loses it. Okay, so effective pressing. But of course, we do have some special players in our team, as was the case here with Bruno Fernandes. Beautiful nutmeg. I told you guys, in Morocco, we value nutmegs as much as goals. So yeah, of course, you bet I was going to show you a sequence with a nutmeg in it. But what's really interesting about Bruno Fernandes here, again, just his quality, is these kind of runs. So here he's able to take out those 6 forward players that Nottingham Forest used in the press with one run. And then fair play here to Luke Shaw, also was able to find him. And so there were moments where we were able to build up from the back, but it's just that we did not do it as often as we should, preferring instead to go long. But in the second half, Lamens preferred to actually play a much shorter game, because generally speaking, in these kind of situations, what Lamens does is that he goes for a long goal kick. But here in this sequence, as you can see, he just lays off a short pass towards Casemiro, again hinting at a change in the mindset of the Manchester United players. I think after halftime, probably, I'm just speculating here, but I think that's an educated guess to think that Ruben Amorim probably told the players, listen, a high-tempo game is not suiting us, so let's calm things down, especially away from home, where, the Nottingham Forest fans were really backing their team. So that like box-to-box type of game was actually much more suited to their squad than to ours. So we actually had to slow down the game a little bit. But as we slowed down the game, that actually highlighted some of our individual qualities even more. For example, Mateus Cunha here in this play, this is what Mateus Cunha is all about. But you cannot really use his qualities to a maximum if you keep on playing that box-to-box, fast-paced football. Rather, you need to slow things down in order to give him that time to find space, to collect the ball in the right positions, and then to dribble at the opposition defense. This sequence should have led to a goal here. Sesko, just a back heel into the path of Cunha, could have been the winner for Manchester United. Another missed opportunity. But eventually we were able to score. And of course, from a set piece, as was, the overarching theme of this game, of the story of this game. And again, as you can see from that same pattern in set pieces, where all of the Manchester United players are more focused towards this far post area. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because of the angle. I suppose from a Manchester United's player's perspective, it's much easier to hit the target if you can win a duel here than if you did in the first post. But I'm gonna be paying close attention to these set piece routines over the next few games, especially the game against Spurs. Thomas Frank is, of course, a set piece freak. I'm sure that he's paying close attention to this. So I'm really curious to see whether Ruben Amorim is going to use the same strategy, whether it's going to be effective, and how Spurs are going to adapt or attempt to counter this particular strategy. But of course, it did work. Casemiro scored from it, and of course, Amad Diallo is positioning himself here in the edge of the area. As the ball comes towards him, this is a beautiful, beautiful volley, and that's a beautiful goal. All right, so in a nutshell, the tactical story of this game is that of a coach, Ruben Amorim, who has used a long ball tactic, fighting for those second balls quite effectively over the past few games, but who has found himself in a situation where the opposition manager and team also thrive when they play this way. We know what Sean Dyche is all about as a manager: direct play, playing on the wings, and then crossing the ball by crowding that box. And then they thrive in that sort of chaos and high, fast, high octane type of football. And so Ruben Amorim tried to adapt, but it didn't really work to the extent that probably most of the Manchester United fans would expect. But there is a reason behind that. The answer lies behind the concept of specialization. The more a team specializes in playing a certain way, of course, the better they become at playing that way. But then again, the trade-off is flexibility. And I think that Ruben Amorim, and rightly so, I agree with him, has tweaked his system in a way to better use the resources, the players, that he has at his disposal. And I think the fact that he has gotten those positive results for the past 3 games, I think this result also is somewhat positive. I mean, it was a really a tricky game. Proves that, of course, his tweaks were successful. But then again, our lack of flexibility, I don't really attribute it to Ruben Amorim's, lack of tactical flexibility or tactical acumen, but rather to our squad, which in my opinion is not flexible enough. We don't have a diversity of player profiles in order to enable us to play a different way based on the opposition. So this is definitely something that we need to take seriously next summer. So next summer, it shouldn't be just a matter of adding quality to the team. It should not be just about adding numbers, even if we get European football next year, but it should also be a matter of finding profiles that are also different, that both, are different and at the same time complement the current players that we have. We need players who thrive in a fast, high-octane game as the one that Nottingham Forest were very happy to give us. But we also need players who can slow the tempo down and still hurt the opposition in a game where, the things move a little bit slower and players have a little bit more space and time on the ball. And currently in this Manchester United squad, I think as far as midfielders are concerned, I think Kobbie Mainoo is the only one who kind of fits that profile of a midfielder who thrives in a slower tempo, a slower game. But Kobbie Mainoo right now, I don't know. I don't want to speculate too much. I don't know him personally, but I just feel that he's not really in the right headspace right now to be effective for us. But definitely we need to find players of this profile, players who can complement the likes of, Mbemu and Sesko and Bruno Fernandes, who kind of thrive in that high intensity type of game. But also we need players, similar to someone like Vitinha, for example, or a Modric type of midfielder who can thrive in a much slower, much more composed and structured type of game. But overall, like I said earlier, I think this is a positive result. I think that we fought well, and I think that sometimes you cannot just evaluate the performances of the Manchester United players or Ruben Amorim from a tactical standpoint in a vacuum. You have to consider the opposition, and Nottingham Forest definitely showed up. I think that they're much better than their league position shows, and they do have some talented players. I mean, Elliot Anderson is absolutely amazing, Milinkovic, Morgan Gibbs-White. So yeah, I think overall it was a fair result. And now on to the next one against Spurs. Anyway, guys, I hope that you've enjoyed this tactical analysis video. If you did, please give it the thumbs up. Until next time, cheers.